Lesley Garrett, thank you so much for coming to Folkestone Music Town. We are really excited about your performance today. It's a really special thing to have here. I just wanted to have a chat with you about some of your amazing career. So I think, first of all, starting off, we're here today with Help Musicians, aren't we? And you've been working with them for quite some time. So tell us about that relationship.
Oh, I've been working with them over 40 years,
Wow.
I'd say, because they literally saved my career. In my 20s, I had a very serious kidney illness. I had pyelonephritis.
Wow.
And the timing couldn't have been worse. I made my debut at the Wexford Festival in 1980. Which is us, if you can work that out, 45 years ago this year. And I was doing, everything was going great. I had fabulous reviews for the role that I played in a wonderful Handel opera called Orlando. I played Dorinda, and Bernard Levin, the great Bernard Levin, wrote me the review of my life. And as a result, I got work with lots of the companies in Great Britain.
Yeah.
And I was just about to make my debut with English National Opera, and I was stricken down by this terrible illness, which had me in hospital for a couple of weeks on intravenous antibiotics. And when I came out of hospital, to my absolute horror, I'd lost my voice. It wasn't that the voice wasn't there, I'd just forgotten how to activate it. It had always been such a natural thing for me. It was like eating and drinking, singing. It was just absolutely part of my life. Yeah. And I suddenly couldn't do it. And nobody could work out why. I just had no voice. It was terrifying. I cannot tell you how terrifying it was. And I'd been working with a wonderful woman called Ursula Vaughan-Williams, who is the great Ralph Vaughan-Williams' wife. Yeah. And she helped to set up Help Musicians, or in those days it was called the Musben Musicians Benevolent Fund, which is a bit of a mouthful, which is why we called it the Musben. But she said, "Idea, what you need is the Musicians Benevolent Fund." And she steered me in the direction of Musben, because really, I was lost. I was totally lost. And they found me a wonderful doctor who talked to me for a long time and helped me to work out what was wrong. And there were several things wrong. Right. And to cut a long story short, they got me help for all the areas I needed help with, one of which was a specialist in kidney illnesses. Mm-hmm. So we could work out how I kept physically well. They helped me to do Alexander technique, which I badly wanted to do because I just felt I'd lost my balance. It was as simple as that. It was an instinct that I thought, I need to just regain my centre. I've lost my core. And they also helped me with some counselling, because I had my first marriage had recently broken down. I was married much too early as a student. And when my career took off, my marriage went in the opposite direction. And I had such a guilt complex about that, which was affecting my singing. And together with my wonderful singing teacher, who I still see for singing lessons every week, Joy, my lovely Joy, she's 91 now. I just threw her the best party when she was 90. She's amazing. Anyway, it took about a year, but I had to claw my way back. And I had the Help Musicians support through that entire time, and without that I really seriously wouldn't be here today.
Wow, that's quite something, isn't it? They do such wonderful things, and like you say, it's quite a lonely world it can be, can't it?
Yes, I did feel very alone. That's a very good point. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why I couldn't sing, because it had always been just such a wonderful, God-given, automatic thing I did. It was very strange, very strange. I just lost my strength. I lost my belief in myself. It was literally, I lost my voice.
Lost everything. It's a knock-on effect, isn't it? Because when one thing goes, like you say, your confidence and everything else, that must have been so scary. It was. That took about a year to recover.
Yeah, and then I started to be able to sing again, and I started back with small roles. I remember the first role I did was for Welsh National Opera. I did Esmeralda the Wire Walker in The Bartered Bride of Smetana, and I actually learned to walk a tightrope, which was a huge help. Well, the director wanted a real live tightrope walker to play the role of Esmeralda. Normally they do it with a double, and I thought actually that would build up my core strength again, because that's where you you need to be strong to be able to hold the
Absolutely.
wire. And I got really good at it.
Wow,
And
you're
that helped me a lot.
incredible.
That was part of my rehabilitation, if you like. But I've ever since then, I've been an absolute ambassador and devotee of help musicians, and I'm still now, at the age I am now, still doing it.
Talking of your age, you've just made me think. And yes, we want to come back to help musicians and things they do, and it's so lovely that you're still showing that appreciation for that. It was a long time ago, but as you say, it really helped save your career.
Yeah.
And talking of that, you said about your age, you've had a very exciting, important milestone birthday this year, haven't you?
I have. I had a big birthday. I am now officially in my 80th decade. So
Wow.
I'm 70 years old, and I'm going into my 8th decade as of this year.
Congratulations.
And what's been fabulous this year is that I made my debut at the age of 70 with the Northern Ireland Opera. In fact, I've just come back from Belfast.
Wow.
I played the role of Heidi Schiller in Sometimes Follies. And I had such a brilliant time. And it was a huge hit. And I thought, it's just wonderful after 45 years in this business.
Wow.
You know, so I can still get up there and knock it down.
Absolutely. God, that's incredible. How impressive. That's really exciting.
Well,
You've still got long to go yet.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I do believe that you have to keep going. You have to keep exercising. You have to keep the muscles toned. It's like an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and athletes, you know, from time to time will get injured. That's how I was able to contain the disaster that happened to me with help musicians help. I tried to make the thing smaller than it was at the time. At the time, it was life threatening almost, or vocal life threatening. Yeah. But I worked hard to see past it with the help of our wonderful charity, and I realised that singers are absolutely very physical animals. Of course, we've got to have all the wonderful interpretation of the soul. I think that's what I love about singing. It uses all of you, your heart, your spirit, your soul, your brain, your physicality. All of these things have to come together for you to get the best sound out of the music.
Absolutely.
And I've kept nurturing all of those things for all of these years. Yeah. And I think that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. You have to. And like I say, sometimes to younger people, like when you get older, your voice does deteriorate. So by keeping it strong, that means you can keep going and having a long career like you have. So for the point of you taking it seriously is what's stood by you.
But I think what I learned very on is how important mental health is, because I was unhappy and I was depressed because of what happened to me. And I've ever since that time, and it wasn't it's much more commonplace now, but the idea of mental health and well-being wasn't 40 years ago. No, it wasn't in normal parlance, and it is now, and I'm so pleased that that's the case. But I learned the hard way how all of these elements that make up our singing have to be nurtured and cared for.
Absolutely. Hallelujah to that, because that means we still got you singing and performing for us. So that's a great thing.
I do my best.
You do a wonderful job. I just heard you warming up, so I'm very, very excited for the performance in a minute. So on that, what if there was a role in 2026 that you could have? What do you think it would be?
Well, is this an opera role or a music theatre role?
Either.
I've always done both because I grew up with both.
Yeah.
I grew up with such a wonderful mixture of music, and I've carried it forward. And I've always,
Do you have a preference?
No, I just love music for itself, its own sake. I think my job as a singer is to find the right quality of sound for each different composer. Yeah. And I wouldn't sing Handel in the same way as I'd sing Verdi. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't sing, Schubert in the same way as I sing Rodgers and Hammerstein. Yeah. You've got to find the right quality of sound. You don't change your voice, you change the colour, you change your sense of history. That plays a big part for me in quality of sound. So what role would I like to play? Well, there aren't any roles, or very few roles, for my age group now. I've been very lucky that I've had some actually written for me, which has been amazing. Yeah. Mark Simpson wrote me one of the best roles I've ever had. In fact, probably the best role, which was the role of Val, the lavatory attendant, in his fantastic opera Pleasure. I mention Mark because he lives here in Folkestone. Yeah. brilliant composer, and I'd love him to write me something else, Mark.
Mark, if you're listening, right, we'll tag you in this.
But if I could sing any role, the one role I really wanted to do and never got a chance to, except in concert, was the role of Tatiana in Eugene Onegin. I just loved that character. I'd have loved to have done that. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to play the lead, the mum in Mamma Mia. I think that's a super role.
That would be a wonderful role.
But I've been so lucky to have sung some of the, the great
really
characters in both opera and music theatre. I think possibly my favourite role ever was the Mother Abbess in the wonderful production of Sound of Music we did at the Palladium a few years ago. Yeah. And that was a very, very special role, much more special to me than I expected it to be. Yeah, because it touched my own face. It reinvigorated that in a way I wasn't expecting. So the spiritual side of me got the most wonderful nourishment from doing that role.
Oh, how wonderful!
That it feeds into everything you sing. There's always a spirituality, I think, to every song.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And talking of your long-standing career and all the wonderful different roles you've done, you must have seen quite some changes over the years from when you started to now. So what's some of the big ones that have stuck out for you? How it's changed so much?
Well, when I first started, I was lucky enough to get a principal's contract at the English National Opera in 1984. Once I'd recovered from my illness, and they really looked after me in the most wonderful way. I think now it's changed, and singers are there's a young performers scheme, which is not the way it was years ago. It's a change from that. I think we were expected to perform roles all the time. Which they still do, and I think they do get the guidance, but that guidance was absolutely vital, and it's so difficult now for young singers to know what roles they should be working on and when, because you have to develop as your voice develops, and it's developing all the time. I still have singing lessons, as I said, because my voice is changing still. Everybody's voice does, because our body is our voice. We sing with all of us. Yeah. It's so holistic. Yeah. So whatever happens to us as human beings happens to our voices. Yeah. So if you go through bereavement, as I have at my age, you have to accept that. Yeah. That will impact my voice. Yeah. So it's just so important to keep doing them. But other things that have happened, I would say, is that the funding for opera has changed. I think the big economic crash of 2008 had a big effect on opera and classical music, because suddenly we didn't have the corporate or as much corporate support as we'd had. Yeah. Big firms used to really love to support opera and orchestras, and I think that's got harder. I think Brexit did the musicians of this country a huge disservice, because it's now very difficult to work in Europe, whereas it used to be just fly over and do a gig. Yeah. Now the paperwork puts everybody off from employing British artists, and that's that makes me angry, because it was never considered by any government, the effect that would have on musicians. And also the pandemic had a huge effect, and we lost a lot of musicians who just had to do other work to make a living and never came back. Yeah. There's been quite a few things that have affected us in a negative way. But on the other hand, I always feel you can't reinvent the past. You can't wish to go backwards. You have to accept the times you live in, the society you live in, and you have to take what you've got and make it work. Yeah. So we have to look forward. One of the things that we did in the pandemic with help musicians was we set up a designated helpline. Yeah. So a bit like the Samaritans for musicians, because a lot of musicians were suicidal. It was so bad. Yeah. And we've managed to keep funding that. That's something I took a special interest in. And I think that's been something that a lot of musicians have benefited from. We just all have to work harder.
Yeah, we do. You're very true there. And like you say, it's really important to be versatile and adaptable, which is precedent to why you've lasted so long in your wonderful career. So,
Thank you.
I think that probably that's actually a question I was going to come to, is what advice would you give to other musicians, singers, anybody that's either starting out or at the beginning of their career?
Yeah.
It is a lot different now.
It is.
I think one of the things you just said was be versatile, be adaptable.
Yes.
What other advice would you give to people?
I think that is very important. I would advise young singers to take care of themselves, of their voices, of themselves as a whole. To be mindful of the fact that everything that happens to you happens to your voice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you should try and avoid unpleasant things, because you will need to sing about somebody's death. You will need to sing about loss, or in a wider sense. So don't avoid life's pitfalls, because you can use them, but look at it like that. Look at every experience you have as something you can use.
Yeah.
We have this wonderful expression in Yorkshire where when times are hard, we say it's a tug of war expression, and it's spit on your hands and take a fresh hold.
Spit on your hands and take a fresh hold. Yeah, get on with it.
Roll
your sleeve up.
No.
Oh.
It's take a fresh hold of the rope, because it's a tug of war expression, and it's the rope of life.
Right.
Every so often, I have to do that. I have to, come on, let's give that another pull.
Yeah.
And you've got to just keep doing that.
You've got to be resilient.
You've got to be resilient. Yeah, you've got to be open-minded as well. Don't find yourself in a niche spot. Just be open-minded. Consider other kinds of music. If you think you're being typecast, work to show people what else you can do.
Yeah.
I think versatility is everything.
Yeah.
Be true to your own sound. Don't try and copy ever.
Mm-hmm.
Be individual. Be you. You matter. You really matter.
Yeah.
And be the best musician you can be. It's a very competitive world out there.
Yeah.
So you learn to score read. You learn your languages.
Yeah.
You learn everything. You learn to dance.
Yeah.
Dancing's so important.
Yeah.
Obviously in music theatre, but also in opera. It's not just dancing per se, it's how to move.
Moving your body to support your voice.
It's moving the body to support the voice, but also which foot to be on. How to talk to somebody without actually turning up stage, but make it seem real. Because that's the big problem for singers, for opera singers, is that we're never mic'd. And so it's difficult sometimes. I think that's one of the problems that we face in trying to act realistically, is that it's difficult to have a conversation with somebody, because it means having the side of your face to the audience, or even looking upstage, and then you lose the sound.
Yeah.
But there's an art to it.
Yeah, there is an art, and you have absolutely mastered it. Well, before we wrap this up and get onto your wonderful performance, which I can't wait for, is there anything that you would like to just share lastly about Help Musicians? What would you say to anybody that's not heard of Help Musicians before, and what they do, and the great things?
I would say to anybody out there who values music, and I think that's pretty much everybody, to be honest. Yeah. If you care about keeping music authentic, because the other, worry I've got at the moment, of course, is ChatGPT and that whole world taking the role of musicians. But I don't think anything can take the place of an authentic musician. If you value music, if you love your music, and you love the people who create that for you, then please consider supporting the work of Help Musicians. Quite literally, without them, and I am one of many hundreds of thousands that we've helped, I wouldn't have the career that I've had, and many other musicians like me would just have gone to the wayside. Yeah. So if you care about music, please care about us. Please consider donating to Help Musicians. Absolutely. As little as you can afford would just be so welcomed. If you care about music, if you care about the authenticity and magic of music, then you have to care about the musicians that make it. I don't think there's a person in this country today who won't listen to and be affected by a piece of music. It is so important to society, to the well-being of society, to the future aspiration of everyone. Scientists, designers, everyone is inspired by music. If you want to keep that in our society, to keep us growing and developing and being the wonderful country that we are, please help musicians. Help musicians to help musicians, because we are devoted, committed, absolutely bonkers about keeping our musicians safe and well. And every penny you give will go straight to them, I promise.
Hear, hear to that. Couldn't have said that better. They're a wonderful charity. Thank you for being with them for so long, and appreciating what I did for you and giving back. And what you said, I couldn't say any better. So thank you so much for coming to Folkestone. I cannot wait for your performance. Thank you for chatting to me, even though you've got to go and sing in a minute.
They've just come for me.
They've just come for you. We're being called. Lesley, thank you so much, and please come back again
anytime. Just ask. Thank you.
Thank you.